Coming up, I've got coffee and a big inbox.
You're listening to Double Time, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Preece.
What are you tittering about over there, Shaun Preece?
Nothing.
Tittering and teetering about.
A bit of a confession. But yes. How are you today, Stephen Scott?
Oh, it's Monday, and here we are for a brand new week. And you know what? I think it's time to just shut the door on the world outside for an hour, shall we?
Yes,
Because
please.
honestly,
Yes.
I can't take any more of the news. I think let's just leave all that at the door, and let's just bathe in technology.
Yes.
Fancy a bath?
A bath in our glorious listeners'
Please don't put any
opinions.
water in that bath, by the way, just to be clear. Electronics, water, yeah, I've just realised, bad idea. We're going to get an email.
Mr. F.
God bless
God
you, Mr.
bless you, Mr. F. I've got to say, again, thanks to all our listeners, all of you out there. The inbox is absolutely amazing. I am trying to batter my way through it. So apologies if you've sent one in. I haven't got back to you yet. I will get there. I promise.
Yeah, but it felt like I was out with one of those things that you whack weeds with. You go whack, a weed whacker. Is that what they call them?
Well, it sounds like it, Stephen.
Let's
Yes.
go with it. I'm no gardener, can you tell? But it feels like I was out there at the weekend. I was like swoosh, 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 deleting all that, because you get so much junk in these mailboxes, and they get in the way of your glorious
Yes.
emails. So I have to go through and sort all that out, and fix all the rest, and ignore all the
well done.
adverts for who knows what. So yeah, we got it all sorted, and now we have a clean inbox, all beautiful. Laura is a little bit under the weather. I think I mentioned this. She was under the weather.
Still.
She still
I'll get
is.
soon.
Yeah,
Get well
she's
soon,
not too good at the minute.
Laura.
So hope you're doing okay, Laura. I hope you're feeling better. But she'll be back with us very soon, I'm sure. But look, the good news for her and the bad news for you is that we're kind of behind on the emails. So, it kind of works out anyway. We can absolutely keep up. Listen, before we get to them, though, I want to mention a couple of stories, because Apple in the news for a couple of different things. One is that, and this is a small story, but it's worth mentioning, AppleCare Plus, a lot of people might go down that road when you get a new iPhone or an iPad or a Mac or whatever. They're moving away from the payout option where you just pay one price for AppleCare, and instead they're turning it into a subscription model. Good or bad, Shaun Preece?
Does it matter, Stephen Scott? Okay, so is the
Of course it
price the
matters. What are you
same?
talking about?
Well, because I've never got AppleCare, I should say, because you need to pay the lump sum up front, right?
Oh, so that's put you
So-
off.
Yeah, so it's always put me off. I've just spent that on getting the phone in the first place. I don't want an extra cost, a lump sum on top. So if they're splitting that up into a monthly payment, manageable, affordable payment, I think actually that's a good thing. I don't know what the payment is a month.
No, well, they haven't released the details yet. I imagine it'll be
Right.
roughly the same price, although
Yeah.
I'm not surprised if they maybe add a few dollars more. That tends to be how it goes
Great
these
film.
days.
Is
we shall see.
AppleCare a good thing? I'm guessing
Right, Scott,
you've
that.
taken...
Thank you.
I'm guessing you take out AppleCare.
I don't actually, no, because I don't break things. I never leave the house. So it's going to bounce on a carpet. What's going to happen to it? Yeah, I actually don't drop my phone that often, which is good. And I always have a case on it. Always have a case on your phone. I know this is something that you don't agree with. I know you do now, but
I do now.
you used to not do
because-
that.
Yes, I just think the iPhone is so beautiful cosmetically. I don't like covering it up.
Can't see it. Shaun.
But I know, but it just feels nice as well. It's all sleek and slippy and falls out of your hand.
Well, that's the problem.
Yes,
yeah.
I have started using a case. Although I've just got a USB-A to USB-C adapter, so I can plug in some USB speakers in the bottom of my phone.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But in order to do that, I've got to take the case off because the adapter just doesn't
fit.
quite fit. Really annoying, I've got to say. Really annoying. So, taking that case on and off is a pain. But, I agree. But I've heard that AppleCare is actually really good. I mean, if you want that extra security, right?
Yeah.
So I've heard it actually performs really well. Not like some of these, I'm going to say insurance where, nope, sorry, you were wearing shoes at the time, you're not covered.
That's right. It was
I've heard-
Tuesday. You can't break something on a Tuesday. Didn't you read your policy?
I've heard, I don't know, as I said, I haven't used it, but I've heard AppleCare is very good. So I would be interested if they break it up like this. So for me, I think this is a good thing.
There's also talk of a new feature coming to iCloud this week. I didn't think iCloud would get updates, but there you go. And of course, I'm old enough to remember when it was iWork In fact, actually, I can go further back than that and say Claris Works, because iWork came along later than that. Goodness me, I loved all that. I used to go, I always go into the store and I'd buy the CDs, or the DVDs, I should say.
Claris Works?
Yeah, Claris Works, yeah.
What was Apple?
Well, I think it became part of Apple, yes. It all became part of the one. It started off independently, yeah. But no, it's very good, very good. But no, iCloud's getting a bit of an update. And that update is, now it's codenamed Confetti. This is not likely to be the name they choose to use, but it's called Confetti. It might live within iCloud, or it may even become an app, or we'll find out, I guess, this week, potentially. This is a feature for event planning. Yes, if you're planning a birthday party, or you're planning a group event, sounds a bit like what they're trying to do. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an equivalent to this, like
or a
WhatsApp.
wedding.
Yeah, exactly. You've got people coming along. You want to know who's going to be there. This is going to help you do that. Does anyone use it? I mean, is this because you and I don't have any friends apart from ourselves? Are you coming, Sean? Yes. There we go. That's it. And then you'll forget. I'll forget. And nothing happens. So there you go.
Yeah.
Problem solved. Don't need confetti.
Okay. Yeah, who knows? This is, for me, it's a bit of a mer story, but hey, may prove to be very useful.
Is this good for people who have lots of friends and go to events and stuff?
And a social life.
Yeah.
I will say,
if you're one of those people, you're going to love this.
If you're going to add features to iCloud, please work on the desktop app and make it accessible, because it just isn't. No, for Apple
on Windows.
On Windows, we always say, Apple, well, it's just going to be accessible, isn't it? You install iCloud on Windows and, you can get around it. Sometimes you can activate the buttons. It's just not a good experience at all. So let's sort that out, Apple, please.
So, I kind of go between my Windows and my Mac all the time. I'm always between them for different things.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
I do love the Mac. And I do like the PC. I spend more time on the Mac, but I, do dip into, especially when I was doing the email weed whacking at the weekend.
Yes.
I thought I'll use the PC for this, and I'll get into my emails. And, once you get into, it takes a couple of minutes to kind of reset your mind to using a PC again. You always try to do voiceover commands in a Mac or a Windows machine; it doesn't work. So you're like trying to kind of get yourself back in the zone. And I don't know what is going on with Windows. It's just there's so many things I thought this is really irritating. Like, for example, this File Explorer thing, I've mentioned it before, but it's utterly hopeless.
What's wrong with it?
I always end up nowhere near the files. I seem to live within a status bar, then some kind of title bar, then some kind of tabs and some kind. And I'm like, I just want to get to the files.
Just keep tabbing until you hear navigation pane or tree view, and then one more tab and you're in your file list.
Do you know what I did? I ended up giving up on the PC. I went back to the Mac and got it done in half the time.
What, in Finder?
In Finder. Because you know what?
So easy.
Because you know what, Sean? When you know how to use Finder properly.
Yeah. Well, when you know how to use File Explorer properly, Stephen Scott, you'll find it's an absolute dream and an ease to use.
You know that's a lie, and I know that's a lie. Let's just pretend it's not for your sake of your argument. But
let me say this. Talking of frustrations, do not update your Amazon app on iPhone. I've updated it, and they've made it AI powered. Right?
Oh, good. So it's much easier.
You find, yes, it's beautiful. You find a product, you go on the page for that product, and I used to go down by heading until I find top reviews. Let's see what other people have said about it. That's gone. It now has an AI summary of all the reviews. Most people say this is blah, this is blue, this is blah, blah, blah. Great. Okay, I actually quite like that. But then you swipe on, and it just says user image, double tap to read the review. So you double tap it, opens a new screen, you read that review, then you got to go back and then find the next one. It is hard work. And more than that, when I'm swiping through by heading, it constantly said current location. Oh, good. What are you talking about? I will say, I tried it last night, and that seems to have gone. So that must be server side, and they've done something, or there was an update in the middle of the night that I've missed. I will say, it's still a little bit dodgy at the minute. So if you can, do not update to the latest Amazon app, at least on the iPhone.
InnoSearch.ai. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, okay.
That's what I've been using.
Very true. Yeah.
So I wanted to buy plastic tumblers the other day. Right? I'm not buying glass because, look, quite frankly, I'll break them. So I want plastic tumblers, but I also want ones that are dishwasher safe. Now, I've got to say, you go into Amazon itself and you'll get, it'll sometimes say it in the description. Sometimes you've got to dig in a bit. But with Inner Search, it's amazing because you just go in and you just go straight to the Ask Inner Search button, and you can ask the question: is this dishwasher safe? And if it's yes, no, whatever, and you can find out. But also, you want to know, like, for example, how big is this glass? Right? How big are we talking? What's the comparative to? Because I've often done this before, where I've bought almost thimble-sized glasses before.
Oh, exactly the same. I've just bought a set of mugs, exactly the same. And it's like a doll's house mug. It's like, well, they're going straight in the bin. Okay, thank you. I know.
Exactly. Well, unless you've got a doll's house nearby, in which case, perfect for tea.
Another thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, here we go.
I just thought, sorry, I'm on a rant. I just was looking for an electric razor. Okay, quick razor. I can quick shave.
I shaved this morning, by the way. Shaved this morning. Just for our YouTube fans. Hello, YouTube.
Perfect. USB-C. Please make it chargeable by USB-C. So easy. I've got USB-C cables all over the house. I don't want these weird shaver plugs on the bottom. Who has them anymore? So
mine is USB-C.
It says USB-C electric razor. Great. I buy it, and it's not. It's a USB-A at one end, and it's still the shaving plug plugs into the bottom of the razor.
It's like that figure of 8 cable type, isn't it?
It's something. Yeah, that's right. But if you lose that, that's it.
Oh, yeah, you're stuffed. I must have bought 4 shavers just in the last couple of months because I just keep buying the same shaver over and over again. I have a collection of shavers in the cupboard.
I bought the Remington F6 Aqua because it was £13 a month for 3 months. So I bought that.
That sounds about the price of mine. And I think they might be the same one. Is it screaming yellow?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know if you've noticed, Stephen Scott, but I'm disabled.
Oh, well, if
I don't know what colour it is. Sorry.
Well, no need to be colourist. But no.
It's a foil razor. I know that much.
Oh, no, it's definitely not that. I don't know, actually. Is it a foil razor? I don't know what I use.
Well, does it have 3 circles on it?
Yes.
Or is
that foil?
Okay. No, that's a rotary.
Oh, right. Just what I know. I paid no attention to these things. Thank you. Well, I'm not going to use an actual razor, that's for sure.
It just brings me back to the point, everything should be USB-C powered. I want a USB-C powered kettle, toaster, absolutely everything. It's the universal cable, and it works so well. And then you get these proprietary... I know I'm going to use that. I'm going to lose that shaver cable.
Just buy another one. Just buy another shaver. Just throw it in the box. That's what I did. I have one I have actually a shaver I bought brand new.
I'm thinking about the planet, Stephen Scott. Waste.
Never mind the planet. It's in my house.
Oh, okay.
It'll waste with me. I'm not chucking the old ones out. I'm keeping them because there's nothing wrong with them. I'm just kind of working my way through my shaver collection.
Can I just say, I'm not recommending the Remington F6 Aqua, by the way. I don't know. I've only used it for a day. I'm saying. But it was accessible.
The one I've got...
I figured it out.
Yeah, the one... accessible. What does that mean, right? Turn it on, it works, and you can put it to your face, and it cuts your face.
Yeah, but I didn't have to, put it together like it's some sort of flat pack IKEA worktop or something.
What, generally, do you have that problem with shavers?
Well, I don't know. I've never used a shaver before. I'm a wet shave kind of guy. This is my first electric
Definitely wet. Right, let's move on.
Email. We get email. We get your email every day.
Best of friends, you say?
Here's your mail today.
Feel better?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, let's
right,
get into it.
Let's move on. We've got Bev in Canada who has a question for me, I think.
Hi, Stephen, Shaun and Laura. A few weeks ago, you had some discussions regarding deaf-blind issues. I have only a mild hearing loss, but like many seniors do experience hearing issues in a loud environment, such as many people talking at once. Stephen, you mentioned a device that resembled a TV remote that had a microphone in one end instead of producing an infrared signal. You suggested that the device could be pointed towards a speaker and through Bluetooth and a smartphone, the sound could be isolated and transmitted to headphones or some sort of earbuds. I didn't catch or remember the name of such a device, so could you send me the name of such? Thanks so much for your podcast. Bev in Canada.
Thank you, Bev. I was going to reply to you personally, but I thought, you know what? This might be useful to other people as well, because I did kind of mention it in passing, and it is useful to know about. It's called a personal listener. That is what you're looking for. That is the kind of catch-all name for these devices. There are tons of them out there from various providers and companies, so I wouldn't want to recommend one. I've never used them, so I wouldn't want to point you in a particular direction. But essentially, they all do the same thing, right? You have, exactly as you say, the ability to listen to television. You can catch casual conversations. They can sometimes be called a personal amplifier or an assistive listening device. But ultimately, you're right. You've got the headphone jack in one end, you've got a microphone in the other, and you just kind of point it in the general direction of the conversation. Brilliant, as they say, in if you're at a dinner table with 6 people around you and you're struggling to hear the person across from you or maybe off to the left, you can just turn it and angle it. It's kind of one of those things I'd love to try. I did try Live Listen once with my AirPods, because Live Listen, I think, is still available in the iPhone. I imagine it probably is, but I haven't seen it for a while.
Yeah, I don't use it, but I assume it still is, where you just put your phone in front of someone and you can listen through the mic on your smartphone in your ears through the earbuds, but it only works with Apple earbuds.
That's right.
Or Beats.
That may
Something
have
by
changed.
Apple.
That may have changed in the recent years, but I imagine probably not.
No.
So yeah, but Live Listen, the only downside was if you can still hear the person talking to you, there is a lag. There's a little bit of a Bluetooth lag going on. So by the time the microphone picks it up, hears it and transfers it. I don't know if that would happen necessarily with a wired device like the personal listener, because it is direct. So you're plugging directly in. So that might be better as a choice. This is the downside to Bluetooth, right? You always get those lags and it can create a kind of, almost like an echo in your ear.
Can I just say, I struggle in those sort of environments. In if we're sitting down having a meal with more than say 4 people, or I call it the sports hall environment, where it's sort of echoey, reverby. I struggle to hear anyone. And as far as I know, there's nothing too much wrong with my hearing, apart from old age. But I always thought it was just a bit of, I don't know, sensory overwhelming, or to do with my vision rather than anything else. But I struggle myself.
Yeah, I hate those environments. I mean, especially if there's loud music. I mean, you and I know when we were in Vienna, I really felt bad for Mr. F and Marco Flallo, who we were with at the time. And I could barely have a conversation with anyone. I almost felt like someone was drilling a hole in the side of my head during the course of the meal. It was horrible.
I loved it. Metallica, AC/DC in this very, very busy
If it was country music,
pub.
I may have been more interested, but I have no idea who those people are. But yes, it is a nightmare, and again, it doesn't even have to be with music in the background. It could just be you've got such a loud environment going on around you.
It's just chatter. It just I can't sort of zero in on someone. And
there must be a link.
Hearing out.
There must be a link between visually seeing someone and hearing them. There must be some kind of, almost like subliminal lip reading going on or something with someone visual.
I suppose there's the visual cues, right? Eye contact, see if someone's facing you or not. You're just constantly listening out, and it's exhausting.
It's funny, the other day I was coming back home from my mum's, and as often is the case, a car pulled out in front of me, or pulled in front of me, as like there's a kind of a hall, a community hall next to not far from the house, and I kind of walked past the car, and the woman got out and she apologized. She said, "I'm sorry, I didn't see you." She says, "I would have stopped and let you go." I said, "No, it's fine, don't worry about it." So I was carrying on walking, and at which point there was a loud bang, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, that's my son. He burst a balloon." And I said,
apologizing for everything around you.
It's going to be and I'm just like trying to go home, right? I personally couldn't care less, but okay. And so and the reason I think she responded to me was because I laughed because she was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh, that's funny." So I laughed, and she said, "Oh, it was a balloon." And then she said, "Do you need any help?" And I said, No, I'm fine." And then her son said, "No, I'm okay, Mum." And I was like, "Oh, she wasn't talking to me."
That's like when someone says hello to you and you realise, they're having a conversation.
Someone else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I'm fine.
I've got over that. That was really awkward for me when I first, was unable to make contact with people, eye contact, visual contact. I've got over that so quickly now. I say hello to, even if, I think someone's just grunting, I'll just say hello.
Yeah.
I just get over that. It's like shaking hands. I still don't know of what's the protocol for shaking hands when you meet someone, Stephen Scott, in blind world?
Usually there's, I tend to find there's a bit of a rule among certain blind people where they'll tell you, my hand is out, and you'll kind of just aim for it that way and just kind of work it out.
Yes.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it doesn't. I just hug people. Sorry.
I know this is maybe a little bit embarrassing to mention, but it is something that happens. No, but it is, look, we share our stories, right? And people love to hear them, and I know that. But there is a reality of blindness in that you're not aware of certain things. And so you and I had met someone, I won't say where, but we met someone, and we didn't know they had no arms.
Yes.
And we tried to shake hands with them.
Yes.
And I don't know, if I'm perfectly honest with you, what I shook hands with. But but it wasn't their arms, because she said to me, I don't have any arms. And it was at that point I kind of, but I don't know what I shook hands, and we didn't really discuss it beyond that.
No, we quickly
and then
moved
you,
on.
and it would have been fine if it was just me, but I didn't have time to say to you, don't try and shake. And then, of course, you were in shaking hands. I don't know what you shook hands with, but it wasn't her hand, obviously. And
so nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Oh, no. You know what? Is it okay to laugh at that? Because you got to admit.
Of course it is.
That's funny. It's funny. So
It's
everyone
not,
out there
like,
now listening.
no, there's no offence here, right? I wasn't trying to offend anyone or upset anyone. I was trying to be nice.
Oh,
But it
blind
happens,
moments.
it does.
Wow. I wanted to
It was a moment.
ball.
Yeah, I know exactly. I was just kind of curl up at that moment. It's like, oh God, And it's funny because, then we begin to feel for a moment how a sighted person would feel around us,
Yeah, that's right.
It's like it passes on through those moments. But
Dear, yes. We're as terrible as anyone else. We make mistakes.
Well, it was a mistake, but that's okay.
Yes.
Wasn't intentional. Right, let's move on. Elliot's been in touch.
Hello, Double Tappers. Throwing this out to Stephen and Shaun and your lovely audience. I'm after recommendations for an accessible smart lock, preferably something that has a fingerprint sensor and is accessible with VoiceOver and iOS and smart speakers, such as Lady A and Mr. S. Sidebar, for UK users of ITVX, there has finally been some accessibility improvements made to the Apple TV app, with VoiceOver now reading out items on the homepage. Hooray! Not sure if this has been intentional or accidental, but it's definitely about time. There are still some areas of the app that aren't great, such as watching live TV and the watch list, but you never know. These may be fixed by 2030. Take care all and happy holidays. Elliot from a blowy pool.
Well, hopefully, I was going to say may have settled down, but hearing the weather outside my window today, I'd probably not, I imagine.
Yes.
Elliot, good to hear from you as always. And Elliot is one who is always pushing the fight for ITVX in the UK to be more accessible, especially on the Apple TV. And it seems to have paid off finally.
Yes.
Now, this email did come in December, I should say. So, obviously we've moved on a little bit. But I will say, the accessibility update has held. It's still not perfect, though. It's really not. And I don't know what it is with these apps. You almost feel like saying to all these companies, could you just spend 5 minutes on the Netflix app and just do whatever they're doing, please? Because it works.
Well, yes, I will give you that. I think a lot of them seem to use the same, architecture, engine, framework, because Disney Plus and Netflix are virtually identical. I still have issues. For example, if you're watching a show on Netflix and the controls go off the screen, sometimes it's impossible to get them back. Double tap to show controls just doesn't work. Also, ITVX, I was so happy when I heard this email from Elliot, and I went on. Absolutely right. It's easy to navigate. You watch it on the website, there is no audio description button.
Oh.
There's subtitles, no way to turn on audio description. So if you want to watch it on a desktop or something, no audio description. It's just, okay, can we get consistent on this, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're never happy is what I'm saying.
No, but we shouldn't be happy until this is fixed. Ultimately, if there was no image, I've said this before, if there was no image on the screen during a show or a film, I think someone might complain. So I think it's right that we do complain.
Just a feeling. Sorry, I missed the first part of Elliot's thing. My headphones cut out for a second there. Was it smart locks?
Yeah, he's looking for smart locks. Now, look, I don't use smart locks. Never really got into them. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. I don't trust them fully. I think I'm happy to bring smart technology into my house. But my wife especially draws the line at smart locks. And I agree wholeheartedly with her, actually, because I think it's the one area where you think, I just don't know. Don't know.
Come on, granddad.
Someone finds out a way to hack their way in. I mean, why they would want to, I don't know. But, they could.
It's funny. I have the same argument with my parents about using debit cards or credit cards. Use your phone. Every time you use, let's say, Apple Pay, I believe it's the same with Google Pay and Samsung and all the others. Every time you use it to pay for something, it's a temporary number that gets discarded. So even someone clones that, they can't use it for anything.
Yeah.
It's 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times safer than using your debit card or credit card. Yeah, it's just because it's technology and, these lurking in the shadows hackers could get involved, they won't touch it. I don't know if it's the same for smart locks. I've got to say, I don't use them either, simply because I don't know how to install them. I'm not a DIY guy. Plus, do they need power? Do they all run off battery? If the battery runs out, what then? I've got a lot of questions about them, but I would be interested. I know some of our listeners do have smart locks, so let us know.
Yeah, I want to mention, was it Sateki? It may have been Sateki that have come up with one, or maybe it was SwitchBot, actually, and I'm thinking about it. SwitchBot had come up with one which you didn't need to install inside. Some of them you have to take the lock off and you replace the inside of the lock with the smart element.
Like a Yale lock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and this one, it just goes in with the key. So you actually put your key inside it, and then you put that in the door. And it literally just turns the key, yeah. And that's what it does.
SwitchBot. I got to say, those guys are just genius for retrofitting smart tech into a house that you don't want to do that. Absolutely amazing.
Well, I'll tell you why I like it, right? Because, we get cleaners who come into the house, right? And the cleaners come in. Sometimes, you might want to go out for the day and you think, I can't go out because I need to be here to let them in. And I just would love to be able to say, look, here's a fob or whatever it would be to hold up to the door, and then it would just open the door for them. Or at least I could unlock it remotely for them and they could just come in. That would be great. And then the great thing about that is when I come home, I can take the smart lock out the door. So it's not always in, so it's just only in it when I need it to be available. Yeah. So it's like a temporary solution, but it's actually a really good idea. So if you're nervous, and I am a little bit nervous about these things going in, but I think that would be one occasion I would use it because that would be perfect for me. So yeah, that could be an option. I like the idea of it just sort of fitting in the door, without having to have...
get your hammer and chisel out. And,
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I mean, if you were going to go down a professional installation route, you can do, of course. And,
Which I get have to.
You're right, though. I mean, I think there's a lot of question marks around the powering of them. What happens when the battery dies? All that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
Interesting. Listen, we'll leave it to you guys. You tell us if you've been using them. Let us know, especially on the accessibility front, and let's help Elliot out. Let's move on to Haroon, who's been in touch with a number of questions.
Well, greetings, gentlemen. This is certainly a blast from the past, certainly as far as Shaun is concerned. Steve and I have not had the pleasure, but I just wanted to express my gratitude and recognition for the many, many hours of work that both of you have submitted. Some of it puts me to the test, but isn't that what it's all about? Look, I wanted to cover this subject, and it's been done to death already, but I just wanted to add my thoughts on the idea of subscription-based modelling as opposed to purchase modelling and or free apps. If you went to your local store and said, look, your bread is stale, so give it to me for nothing. What are they going to tell you, right? I am an app developer and work specifically with accessibility for a large company. I won't go into detail, but I know that from my point of view, I have a lot of subscriptions. I've subscribed to all sorts of things, and for the most part, I probably haven't even used them after I've taken out the subscription. But let's take, for example, Office 365 or Pilot 365 or whatever they call it. There was the time when the only way that one could acquire it at no cost was a pirate copy, and it was dodgy. But the subscription-based model cost me, $14 a month or $16 a month, and I can put it on 5 machines, and I get the updates. Energy is a thing that needs to be, it goes both ways. A fly couldn't survive without the spider, and vice versa, right? And one is dependent upon the other. If I don't like something, then I'll cancel the subscription. And I have the choice according to my state of income, whether I can afford it or not, and if I can't, and if it's not worth my usage, if it doesn't serve my purpose, it's gone, and I might resubscribe a little while later. But Voice Vista was what became of Microsoft Soundscape, which is now a subscription model, but it's packed with features. And the other thing that I'll finally add is what one has to remember is the code has to be sustained, and it also has to be made to be compatible with updated devices and updated operating systems. Many of these software packages and application packages were 32-bit originally, and 32-bit support on iOS went with Adam and Eve. And in many cases, these things had to be rewritten from the ground up. And that's just the way it is. And if I have some kind of, reason and income to validate the work that I do, I'm going to be more inclined to want to provide the service. If I give it away, I'm giving my intellectual knowledge away, I'm giving my self-worth away. And look, on a final note, I hear too many people that are the armchair experts that if the table were turned, these people wouldn't have the knowledge or the skill set to take over the app and write it. So it is what it is. But I just have difficulty with people that say stupid things without really considering the whole thing first. That's all, folks.
Thank you, Haroon.
Was that aimed at us?
I was going to say, is that us you're talking about there, Haroon? Because, I can I recognise myself. I resemble that remark, I think is the right phrase.
A blast from the past, I got to say. So good to hear from you, Haroon. We used to speak back in the Zello days.
Oh, wow.
He's an incredible guy, a true engineer in every sense of the word, a mechanic. He takes things apart, put them back together again. Software, he's absolutely amazing. I can't disagree with anything that was said there. We mentioned about, maintaining software and, the time involved in that. And, thanks to the changing of platforms like the 32-bit to 64-bit, which happened with iOS, and a lot of apps did disappear, and people were upset by that. So, yeah, I totally agree with you.
I mean, look, it's just the both sides argument, isn't it? And, Haroon's in a position he can talk from those sides. He sees the value of the subscription, but he also sees why it's necessary for the developer. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. And at the end of the day, if no one pays for it, it'll go away. And that's the end of it.
The problem I have is the honesty. Let's be honest. I saw a video recently from Louis Rossmann. He's a great consumer rights activist on YouTube. And he was reading out a clarification on T's and C's from a company, saying what lifetime actually means. And lifetime now means, in this case, 5 years.
Wow.
When they say a lifetime subscription, they're talking 5 years, or until the platform is no longer supported. So if iOS changes and the app doesn't work, sorry, lifetime doesn't apply anymore. Companies can redefine the meaning of words. Purchase doesn't mean purchase. It means you're licensing an app. You're not buying it. You don't own it. You're licensing the right to use it. But every time they use the word purchase, that's what they mean. That's why it's so important to read those T's and C's, the terms and conditions. We never do. They're really difficult to understand.
Yeah.
But that's the point. And I think that's dishonest. If they're honest with us and say, look, a lifetime is 5 years, a lot of us would probably say, okay, that's right. But when we hear lifetime, we think, I've got this app forever. It's not the case.
Well, I mean, the word lifetime suggests that, doesn't it? And me, I don't really get into the whole language policing debate, but I think on this occasion, there are definitions here that are just wrong. These are wrong definitions.
It's disingenuous. Yeah, lifetime should mean lifetime, forever, until I'm dead. Thank you. So 5 years may do.
That actually seems about right for me. So 5 years is perfectly accurate. Okay, let's go to Stan because he wants to tell his lady he is listening. Ooh.
Greetings, Stephen and Shaun, and all Double Tap listeners, or Double Tappers as we like to call them.
Thank you.
I thought you'd be interested in what happened to me. This is Stan Luttrell. I was launching into Facebook, and the A-lady heard the word notification. Now, when she heard the word notification, she immediately told me that I don't have any notifications, but the key thing here is I didn't even ask the A-lady by name. I didn't even use the wake word. This is just totally crazy, but I thought you might be interested because other people may find the same thing. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Stan. Always good to hear from you. Always love hearing from you and what you're up to. Look, I mean, I think I've been saying this for years, right? She's listening to everything. It's not just her, by the way. It's not just Lady A. Your phone is listening to you. Your TV's listening to you. And if it's got a microphone in it, guys, it's kind of listening to
news. Misinformation, Stephen Scott. Stop it, although they are.
Yes, of course they are.
Look, in the case of...
They have to listen. That's the whole point.
Yes, exactly. It's constantly on a loop. It's recording for 5 seconds, listening out for that wake word. If it doesn't hear it, it deletes that 5 seconds and continues. It's a 5-second
does
loop.
It?
Yes, it does. The point here is, you think it was triggered. I think it actually was triggered with the wake word. For example, whenever I call my dog, who's called Fletcher, sometimes it will trigger the wake word on my smart speaker for the Lady A word. So there's something, maybe VoiceOver said something before it heard notifications that triggered the wake word. And unless you've got the sound on request turned on, so it goes beep, so you know it's listening, then you wouldn't know that. And then it heard notification and took that as a command. So, yeah, I think it was accidentally triggered, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. This does happen now and again.
It does. And you'll find all kinds of language. TV will fire off. It used to be a lot worse. Television used to always... I don't know how maybe something's changed, maybe they've refined it at the Amazon end, but there was a time where you could be watching a show and it would just send it off in a tailspin. Suddenly it would be answering questions.
Before.
Yeah.
They just come out and say the wake word just loud.
Yeah.
And what are you doing? Yeah.
That's why we call her Lady A. Simple as that.
Correct.
Stop setting everybody. Okay, listen, before we move on, I just want to remind you of how you can get involved. If you want to drop us a message, here's how.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback@doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Okay, let's go to Daniel's message.
Hey, Stephen, Shaun, and of course, the lovely Laura. This is Daniel from Ottawa, a long-time listener, I guess, first time sending an audio recording. I just wanted to comment on Stephen's remarks regarding reading text in the dialog box. Of course, with JAWS, there is a way of doing this. If you press the JAWS key, left Alt key and the W on the keyboard, that will do what's called virtualizing the window. And from there, you can navigate the text, you can copy it, paste it, do whatever you want with it. Then when you're done, you press the escape key and then you're back to the dialog box. Like you, Stephen, I find myself often not always paying attention to what JAWS is saying. So when I do get these dialog boxes, sometimes I'll actually virtualize the window and reread the text just so I better understand before I click yes or no. I don't want to accidentally format my computer or, break it in any way. So secondly, Shaun, one of the listeners, I believe, was talking about grip-ons for shoes. And Shaun, you mentioned it as well. Here in Canada, we have a lot of ice and snow, and I use a white cane a lot, so I tend to be very careful. But you can buy boots who have the grip-ons built in to the boot. I bought these big boots, or like skidoo boots, we call them here in Canada. But you have a latch in the back that you would flip outwards, and then you turn it clockwise, and then the grips kind of come out. And then when you flip the latch back up, and it locks it in place. And when you're done using them, you just grab the latch again, flip it out, turn it counterclockwise, and then flap it back in, and that retracts the spikes back into the boot. I find those very useful because when you're out and about, you don't have to put the grip-ons in the bag or anything like that. You walk out with the spikes. When you're walking indoors, you just have to grab the latch, turn it counterclockwise for each boot, and the pipes just retract back into the boot. So hope that helps. And great show. Keep it up. And always love listening to you guys.
Thank you, Daniel. That's fantastic news. There you go, Shaun. All your problems solved.
I bet they're not legal in the UK. I bet there's a thing there. It's like a concealed weapon, but that is genius. I thought actually there must be some sort of walking boots or some sort of footwear that have these built in, but I didn't even think about, retracting them. That is fantastic. I'm going to look on Amazon straight away. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Daniel. Listen, let's go to Jim, who wants to take us back to Christmas Day, I believe, and our conversation we had with Kelly and Ramia and Jacob, who were talking about book reading. And it was an interesting conversation. If you heard it, you'll know what we're talking about, of course. We talked about reading it in all its forms, and that's what Jim's picking up on.
Hello, Double Tap, friends and family. First, I want to say the Christmas party was awesome. You all did a great job. Secondly, audiobooks, or talking books as we call them, or have called them in the United States. I want to first say, I think that however you consume it, vernacular doesn't really matter. I read whether it's an AI, whether it's listening to a narrator, whether it's by phone reading something. I consider it reading. I have read print when I had vision for it, and also I know some Braille. Anyway, I also wanted to talk about the Raiders for a minute. Back when I first started using, I'm going to say it, talking books, I was inspired by narrators like John Richardson, Yvonne Tesla, and Bob Askey, to name a few. I was also sad when I learned that Yvonne Tesla, the very first narrator to read romance books, like the Sidney Shelton books, wow, that was pretty steamy back in the day. Today, audiobooks that are commercially produced are wonderful. They now call them performers, not narrators. Like Scott Brake and January Lavoie are two of my favourites. I've also found that you can find some of these folks on Facebook. Some of them have personal accounts. Some of them have professional accounts like Scott. He will tell you about the work he's doing and what he's done and sometimes share personal information. And, of course, now, and you have talked about this before, I think, we can reach out to authors like Jack Carr, who is one of the authors I like, who is a SEAL in the US Navy, and some of the others that do podcasts and things. And if you want to review somebody, good stuff. And some of the others that do podcasts and things. And if you want to review somebody, good stuff. I would say James Patterson. And I think it's even fair for us to talk about the content and the narration. And even sometimes there's performance with music and other things. Some things maybe we ask people who are blind and VI are a little more intuitive about. I've also noticed, unfortunately, whether it is intentional or not, by the company or the quality of production. So some authors get really good mixing and some authors get really bad mixing. Whether they're a new author or a successful author, I think there's a lot of room to talk about this. I hope you will do it. And yes, I know we have had some magazines and some other stuff that was either terribly produced or had narrators that you just couldn't stand. And you think that somebody would have thought, someone's actually going to read this and depend on this. So why would you want somebody that either does not see it well or screams, or the equipment sometimes was pretty poor? Anyway, I'll shut up now. Thanks for doing such great work this year. Happy New Year to everyone. And yes, even though I'm a Florida person, I know what a jumper is. But I want to know, has anyone ever jumped in it? Kind of like when you wear a jogging suit, so we now call them sweats. People do actually jog in them. Does anyone really jump in a jumper? Maybe it's some kind of parachute thing. I don't know. Oh well. Respectfully, in peace and joy, Jim East.
Thank you, Jim. And even though you're in Florida, I'm glad you know what a jumper is now. No, you don't. You do not jump in a jumper. A jumper is for lazing around. It's for relaxation. It's for comfort.
It's for heat. Why do they call it a jumper then?
I have no idea. All these weird names
for
things. There's probably a podcast out there which is like, why is this called this thing? We should go and listen to that.
And that comes from the Christmas Day episode, as you mentioned there, Stephen, where we were all wearing Christmas jumpers.
Indeed we were.
Well, at least me and you were. I'm not sure about the others now. I can't remember.
Yeah, because no one else cared. No one else cared enough. They didn't care enough to bother.
We were in the Christmas spirit.
I was sweating my face off. And
I
other
had a
places.
Santa hat on and everything.
You did. You had to give up the Santa hat, if I remember right.
Yes, exactly right. Audiobooks.
I mean, look, what's interesting about what Jim's saying is there's a kind of a real connection that is made between the narrator and the listener. You know, and in Jim's case, it's a
absolutely.
really personal connection. It's almost like when you find, I mean, I find this with audio description. I get this all the time. If I hear almost like my favorite voice, there's certain voices I hear when a show starts and I go, oh, this is going to be good. Or I'm going to enjoy this more because this voice is behind it. Like Thomas Reed, for example, who is a voice for IDC, the International Digital Center. And of course, that company do a lot of work for Apple and Netflix and Disney and others. When I hear Thomas's voice, when I hear Fern Lulham, good friend of ours, Fern Lulham, when I hear her, I always think this is going to be good because I'm going to be able to understand it. I'm going to enjoy it. It's not a voice that grates on me. Very few, in fairness, do.
It's a sign of quality.
But it is.
Stephen
It's a
Scott.
sign, like
That's what
anything
you're
from
saying.
IDC generally is, to be perfectly honest. So I never
Can
really
I be awful about that?
complain then. Yes.
I don't recognise the voices. And I think that's a good thing. The audio description should almost just be there, but not in the way.
What about books,
At all.
though? Is it different with books?
Because
Because I know, for example, you listen to a lot. Well, I don't know if you listen to it, but I think your partner listens to a lot of Harry Potter.
yes.
Now, is that because Stephen Fry is reading it? Is it just a comfort?
Yes, that's exactly it. Stephen Fry. I've got the definitive collection of Sherlock Holmes because of Stephen Fry, because of the way he does narrate. So, yeah, no, absolutely. I will say that with audiobooks. I'd listen to Jack Reacher. I love the Jack Reacher series of audiobooks. There's a narrator there whose name, again, has totally gone out of my head, but he is fantastic. And he makes that for me. That is the voice of Jack Reacher. And if someone else reads it, which I believe a couple of times in the series, someone else does read it, it doesn't sit right with me.
No, it doesn't.
So
No.
we do absolutely make that connection.
When I first kind of get into audiobooks, now I'm not an audiobook connoisseur. Anyone who knows me will know that only too well. I'd be a liar if I sat here. I mean, look, I bought the Bill Maher book, But I'm Not Wrong. And was it But I'm Not Wrong? Or was that the tour? I can't remember. Anyway, I'll tell you, it was this comedian says things that will shock you. I think that was what it's called. That's the latest book he's put out. And it's like a collection of all his editorials from real time over the years. And I can't even get through that. And I listen.
Really?
I listen to Bill all the time. Well, not all the time, but every week he's on. I'll always put the show on. I always enjoy it. I listen to it as a podcast because I don't bother with the TV show. Of course, you do miss bits because there's a lot of visual elements to it, but I don't care. I get what I need out of it, and that's my kind of catch up with the week kind of thing. US politics side, and that's always fun. But it's interesting. I can't even get through that audiobook. I'm just not an audiobook person. I just fall asleep too easily. Far too easily I fall asleep. So if I sit back and listen to it, I will be out like a light. Now, in saying that,
Yes.
I do, when I started, right back to the beginning, it was a series in the UK at the time, and international listeners may have heard of it. It did sell internationally. A show called A Touch of Frost. David Jason was the star. And it was, I can't remember the guy who wrote the books, but he essentially, the original books that came out were available in audio, and I thought, well, this will be interesting because I'll get more of what I like, right? So I like the show, but I'll get the book form. And then it was read by this guy who was kind of being Jack Frost, who's the guy in the detective in the film, and it didn't work for me because it was a different voice.
Predefined association.
It's all predefined.
Jack.
That's who that guy was. So it didn't make sense that it was this guy over here. And so it didn't work for me at all. So it can work on the flip side as well. But I can see why people do get attracted to the voices and can really feel connected to them. And of course, remember, you're spending a lot of time with those voices as well.
Yeah, potentially. Like you, I tend to fall as... I've started listening to A Beginner's Guide to Python Programming audiobook. And I defy anyone to stay awake for more than 30 minutes.
If you said Monty Python, I might be interested, but not Python programming. Goodness.
If you're into audiobooks, by the way, then check out My Life in Books show on AMI Audio in your favourite podcast app. It's very good and lots of interviews with very interesting authors.
And, of course, the AMI Audiobook Review with Ramia and her team of wonderful people. Jacob Szymanski's on there. And they review all kinds of books as well. Yeah, there's tons of book shows here in AMI that you want to be checking out. I'll be brutally honest, I actually probably rather listening to people talk about books than listen to the books themselves. It's like I get the synopsis and that's enough for me. I'm like, okay, I get it,
Very true, yeah.
The Purge, they all die at the end, right? Fine, okay, I get it. I don't need to...
Spoiler alert!
Oh, come on,
Unbelievable.
Clues in the name.
Move on.
Okay, fine. Gregory has been in touch. He wants to talk about Braille, and I don't think he agrees with me.
Hey, Stephen. Hey, Shaun. This is Gregory again and again and again. I was just listening to your podcast about not enough ways or places to learn Braille. I respectfully disagree. I learned UEB during COVID over Zoom calls with my Braille instructor, which her name was Judy, and I'll always love her the rest of my life for teaching me Braille, UEB. We'd have lessons through Braille books. We would read and learn through the Zoom calls. I would take my Perkins writer and write up the lessons and mail her the lessons. She would proof them for me, and I would get the lessons back. That was a great way to learn. She first taught me Braille in 2013. Grade 1 Braille with a little muffin pan, a 6-hole muffin pan, and ping pong balls. And I went from there. Also, there's a great organization, which I know you know, American Council of the Blind. They have a community call called Braille Together. It was introduced by a wonderful woman by the name of Elizabeth. There are mentors on there, on these calls, that help people learn Braille. They read books on there. They use the new NLS e-reader to teach Braille. There's Hadley here in the States. There's a wonderful organization called the Brailleist in England, I believe. They're fantastic. They have lessons. So there are a lot of places to learn Braille. Now, maybe that wasn't your point, but I'm just saying that there are many ways to learn Braille. Although I agree with you, there's not enough teachers to learn Braille or teach Braille in school to young blind and blind visually impaired kids. So anyway, that's my rant. As always, thanks guys for your banter and a little tech thrown in. Bye.
Yeah, we do try.
It's a very calm rant.
I was going to say, that's the most laid-back rant I've ever had in my life.
I liked it. I can't disagree. You're absolutely right. I mean, you mentioned some of the big names there, Hadley and the Brailleist Foundation, who do an amazing job, along with lots of others. But I think the point I would make is I still hear, even today, that people have contacted their local department of whatever it may be and are told, no, we don't teach Braille. Of course, there's online services out there, and they do a fantastic job. But, if you think of someone who's just recently lost their sight and they're moving into this world, that's another thing they've got to learn if they're not into their tech already.
And they're probably unlikely to learn it at certainly that stage. I think the problem is we tend to kind of conflate all this into one thing, right? So someone loses their sight later in life. There's this assumption that, the next day they just die because, they clearly, they go from losing sight to that's it. Whereas it's not the case, right? Someone could lose their vision over time or perhaps very quickly and then go through that period of dealing with all of that. And on the other side of that, whatever that looks like for that individual, that's the moment they may say, hey, this could be useful to me. And like I said before, it's not just about learning the skill. This is why I keep talking about these national centres or local centres, whatever you end up thinking that they could be. Ultimately, these could be places where people can come together. And the social aspect of all of this is the biggest element. When I did my Braille class back in, I want to say 21, maybe it's 20, no, actually it was before that, wasn't it? It was before pandemic. So yeah, probably in 2019 when I think about it. I did go back in 21. But there was such a great camaraderie there. I met great people. I looked forward to going there. It was a nice experience. We laughed a lot. We had some fun. The teacher was there. Learning over Zoom and all that is fun. And of course, that's great for the skill. But I think it's more than that. And I think also you can learn better when you've got a teacher sitting across from you who you can literally hand the Braille paper across to and say, is that right? Have I got this right? And they can instantly say, yes, no, whatever. I think that's really, really useful. So that's the bit of it that I think, everything you've said is right, Gregory. You're absolutely right. There's plenty, there's loads of great resources out there. Maybe not plenty, but there's lots of great resources out there around the world. But that's all online. If you want something in person, sadly, that's lacking. As a child, that's a different conversation, I think. We've had that talk about children and education. But I think for adult learners, there's a real lack out there. And that's something that needs to be, in person at least, that I think needs to be addressed. So that would be my take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you, Gregory.
Yeah, thank you for that. Gregory, that is it for today. We're out of time, but thank you for your feedback as always. We do love getting it. Keep it coming in all the usual ways. You know how to get in touch. Please do drop us a message. When Laura's better, she'll read the emails. However, if you send a voicemail or a WhatsApp message, we can get to it a little bit quicker. So that's a way to get ahead of the queue if you want.
Jump the queue.
Yeah, you can jump the queue with that. Without a jumper on, ideally. No jumping in a jumper. That's not allowed. Listen, tomorrow we're joined by Gideon Mayhew. He's going to tell us all about a brand new app launching tomorrow that's going to make your social media life a lot better. Join us for that tomorrow on Double Tap. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.